Hey everybody, it's David Sirota. I just wanted to weigh in on a great story that we saw earlier this week from Jonathan Larson at TYT Politics. The story looked at the CEO of a medical device company and what the CEO was saying about a tax that came with Obamacare and how the assertions being made about this tax were effectively undercut by the company's own financial documents. Basically, the CEO was demonizing the tax, blaming the tax for various unpopular actions that the company had taken, layoffs and the like. And then yet the company's own financial documents were saying that actually the tax didn't have much, if anything, to do with the layoffs and all the other stuff. So basically the CEO saying one thing, but the financial documents saying something else. Now this is an important story for all sorts of reasons, one of which is how it highlights the discrepancies that you can see between what company officials will say on, let's say, a cable TV show or in any kind of public forum versus what they say in their financial documents that they file with federal regulators. We saw a story last year where Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren identified how companies, in that case financial companies, that were lobbying against the fiduciary rule, this rule to protect consumers in investment decisions and the like, where she showed how the financial companies that were lobbying against the bill were telling the Department of Labor, oh, the fiduciary rule is going to kill our business, it's going to destroy our whole business, it's going to be terrible. And yet the same companies would then on their earnings calls tell their investors that the fiduciary rule wasn't a big deal, they'll be totally fine with it. There was this big discrepancy. And I think what you have to understand is that company officials in certain forums are not bound necessarily by strict securities laws. And that oftentimes what the companies will say in documents that are governed by those laws, they're under much more pressure not to dissemble or be dishonest or lie in those documents, whereas in forums like cable TV shows and the like, those laws don't necessarily really apply. I mean, you can't explicitly mislead your investors. That's basically generally barred. But you have a lot more leeway when you're not signing your name to a document filed with the SEC. And I think this underscores that we always have to look at the documents. You always have to, when you hear an assertion by a corporate executive, somebody representing a big company, when you hear them on cable or when you hear them on in some sort of public setting and they're making a political attack, it's always worth thinking about, well, what did they say about that in their SEC filings? What did they say about that in their filings with regulators? Because oftentimes those documents are governed by much stricter laws, and those companies know that they can get in a lot bigger trouble for not telling the truth in those documents. It's a good reminder that of why you always need to try when you can to follow those documents. It's a good reminder why, by the way, there needs to be a solid, concrete business reporting in this country where we actually don't just take company officials and corporate executives at their word. We actually go and do the hard work, journalists do the hard work of digging into the documents in which these companies make statements that are bound by the law.